It takes about 18.6 years for the lunar nodes to return to their same place in the zodiac. That means the eclipse cycle takes about 18.6 years, in which eclipses will oscillate between two zodiacal signs, typically whichever signs the lunar nodes are currently in. And if you don't remember what the lunar nodes are, watch my previous video about eclipses. But this is the eclipse cycle, in which, as I said, eclipses are oscillating between two signs, which also means they're oscillating between two houses in your chart. I like to use whole sign houses for this. But each of these house phases I liken to a lunar phase. So for example, the first seventh house phase is the beginning to me. It's the new moon phase. It's an existential crisis where our relationship to ourself is challenged, which affects how we relate to other people. And then we pass into the 12th and 6th house phase, which I liken as the sort of the first quarter moon, where we meet opposition for that first time. And this is a phase where we sort of go into our cocoon after having this existential crisis. We need to remove ourselves from activity and drama to process these big changes. Sometimes mental health or physical health can precipitate, which takes us out of the drama. But we have to process these things. And then we move to the 11th and the 5th house phase, which is sort of emerging into the light of day. I liken this to the gibbous moon, where we're facing a more optimistic vision. It doesn't mean it's always a nice time, but it is sort of that phase. And then we move to the 10th and 4th house phase, which I liken to the full moon. It's the manifestation. We often have big changes in our life direction and usually our living situations that happen during this period. And each of these periods is about a year and a half. Then we move to the 9th and 3rd house, which is the reflective period, where we start to consider our worldviews. We look back and reflect on how we've done and how we've manifested, what we believe and what we think, how we express our ideas. That's highlighted here. It's sort of like the disseminating moon, or the waning gibbous, as some people call it. And then we get to the final phase of the 2nd and 8th house, where our material possessions are sort of coming into focus, our financial situation, and also death. Because the 8th house does have to do with this sort of dissolution, this approach of the final hour, where we have to reconsider who we are again. And then we'll emerge into the next phase, into a new existential crisis. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for your interpretation.